Hello. If you saw one of my recent videos, I said about the delay in the hand transplant having to come off the waiting list briefly. So today I've been for my chickenpox vaccine. So once I've had the next one and then waited a further 4 weeks, I can then go back on the waiting list. So I will be back on the waiting list on the 18th of November. But the nurse kind of riled me a little bit today, so I was a little bit shirty. She said to me that my second vaccine was in 8 weeks, and I said, no, it's not. It's in 4 weeks. No, it's 8 weeks. I said, no, it's not. It's already booked. It's 21st of October. So then she was asking me why I'd got to have it. So I said, because I'm waiting for a hand transplant. So then she said, well, when's your appointment for your operation? So it's not the first time I've been asked when's the operation. I thought I'd do a video to explain it, because a lot of people don't understand. A hand transplant, or any transplant, has to come from a person who's died and being kept on life support machines. Their body still needs to be alive, and they need to be a donor, and their families have to agree to donating the organ. That's one. The other part of me then receiving them is when a donor has died, they automatically let everybody that's waiting on parts of a body, whatever the organ is, whatever the part is, you know, eyes, whatever, they have to be matched to a donor. So they will then put out, obviously hands are done at Leeds Hospital, so they would go to Leeds and they would ask Leeds, right, have you got any patients that would match with this criteria? The match has to be not just blood but tissue, colour. They would actually look at the height of the person. So I used to be 5'2". I had very small hands. And they asked if I would accept a large hand, and I said no, I don't really want great big buckets on the end. And my wrists are quite small, and my hands were quite small, so I don't really want great big hands on the end, as much as I'll be very grateful for hands, and if they are a bit bigger than what mine were, that's okay, but I don't want, you know, kind of man's hands or anything, because they asked would I. No, but they wouldn't. I think they just have to ask you these things just to make sure that you're psychologically okay to have it done. So yeah, the hands will be completely matched to me with blood, tissue, size, everything. There is no appointment system. It's not that the person at the top of the list gets their hands first. It's the person on the list that a match comes in for that gets their hands first. So I might be on the list for 5 years. Somebody might join the list today and get their hands tomorrow. It's just pot luck. It's just, if somebody dies, that's a match to me. But she couldn't understand it. She just couldn't get her head round it. And it kind of made me think, well, there might be an awful lot of people that have no idea how it works. I've had to have a lot of tests over the process of applying for having a hand transplant. I had to have psychological tests. They have to make sure that I'm mentally stable and that could cope with having hands again. It's a big thing. It took me a long time to actually come to terms with the fact that, yeah, actually, I do want hands again, and I do want somebody else's hands, because that's a big thing. When I first saw Cor Hutton, another quad friend of mine, have her hands, I was like, oh God, no, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. That's amazing that she's had it and it'll help her, but I couldn't do that. I wasn't in the right frame of mind at the time. I was only, I don't know, maybe 6 months out of hospital or something when she had hers done. It was all fairly new to me then. I wasn't mentally well enough in myself. You know, I was still depressed, and I'll admit that now. I was depressed. So they have to make sure that you are, you know, kind of mentally okay, physically okay, that your blood group would actually match. There was another lady on the transplant waiting list with myself going through all the tests. We became friends on Facebook. I contacted her recently because I hadn't heard, and I wanted to know, had she been lucky, is she on the waiting list? And sadly she said she's not, because they couldn't find any matches at all for her from her blood tests. So it's amazing what they can tell from your blood test. And that's why I had to have the chickenpox vaccine today, because my immunology tests that they've done shows that I had no immunity to chickenpox, even though I've got chickenpox scars. I've had chickenpox and I was really bad with it. I was 26 years old. I remember it well. My nephew got it, gave it to my niece, and my niece rubbed my arm and said, "I'm going to give it to you," or my nephew did. One of them did, and said, "I'm going to give it to you," and they actually did. I wasn't expecting it, but you know, there you are. These things happen. So I've been today, and I've had my chickenpox vaccine. I will have my next vaccine on the 21st of October, and I'm back on the waiting list on the 18th of November. If you've got any questions that I haven't sort of covered within this about the hand transplant, feel free to ask. I don't mind. If I know the answer, I'll tell you. I just can't wait to have hands again. It will give me so much more independence. I used to be a hairdresser. I'll never be able to cut hair again. They won't work well enough for that. Excuse my dog in the background barking, guarding. They won't ever work well enough to cut hair again, but they will be good for cooking. You know, I'll be able to cook again. Hopefully I might be able to do a bit of sewing, using my hands maybe, but even the sewing machine, you know, that would be good to get a sewing machine again. I gave mine to my mum, but you know, maybe I could share it with her or something. If she's not using it, I can go and borrow it. I had started to get into doing mosaics. One of my videos, I shared a few of them. I absolutely loved it, and maybe I could even get back into doing that again. That would be good. But the main thing will be, I will be able to go out independently and do things for myself, by myself. It will be amazing. It's absolutely life changing. If you haven't considered being a donor, please consider it. I've been a donor since I was 16, I think it was. So if you are already, you might not have realised that you can actually go on and tick what organs you would donate, and I've ticked everything. You know, if it's any good, they can have it. You know, they're good to me once I'm gone, and I'd like to think that if my organs are good enough, somebody else could have them. So anyway, take care guys, but don't forget about sepsis either. Cold hands and feet, shivering, extreme confusion, severe breathlessness, feeling like you are going to die, not passing urine in a 24-hour period, mottled or discoloured skin that won't blanch when you put a glass on it. You might not get any of them. I would imagine you would feel extremely unwell. Take care. Talk soon.